Hi friends, today we are discussing the first day exam. നിങ്ങൾക്കറിയാം നമ്മൾ 70 days ക്രാഷ് പ്രോഗ്രാമാണ് അനൗൺസ് ചെയ്തത്. അതിൻ്റെ അടിസ്ഥാനത്തിൽ ഫസ്റ്റ് ഡേയിൽ നമ്മൾ 4 പോയംസ്, ഓൺ ഈസ് ബ്ലൈൻഡ്നെസ്, ഷേക്സ്പിയർ സോണറ്റ്സ് 121, ജോൺ ഡൺ ആൻഡ് എലിജി റിട്ടൺ എ കൺട്രി ചർച്ച് യാർഡ്. ഈ 4 പോയംസിലെ ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസാണ് നമ്മൾ ഡിസ്കസ് ചെയ്യുന്നത്. നിങ്ങൾക്കറിയാം ഒബ്ജക്റ്റ് ടൈപ്പ് ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസാണ്. ഏത് മേഖലയും ചോദിക്കാം. അപ്പോൾ നമ്മൾ വളരെ മെറ്റിക്കുലസ് പ്രിപ്പറേഷനാണ് നമുക്ക് വേണ്ടത്. ഏറ്റവും സൂക്ഷ്മമായി പ്രിപ്പയർ ചെയ്ത് ഒരു ഭാഗം പോലും വിട്ടുപോകാതെ നമ്മൾ പഠിച്ചിരിക്കണം. നിങ്ങൾ ആദ്യം വേണ്ടതെന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ ഈ പോയംസ് ഡൗൺലോഡ് ചെയ്തെടുക്കണം. അല്ലെങ്കിൽ നിങ്ങളെ പുസ്തകം ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ ആ പുസ്തകം നോക്കി പോയംസ് വായിക്കണം. ടെക്സ്റ്റ് അല്ല നമ്മൾ ചെയ്യുന്നത്. ടെക്സ്റ്റുമായി ബന്ധപ്പെട്ട അനുബന്ധമായ ഒരുപാട് കാര്യങ്ങളാണ്. നമ്മൾ വി ആർ ഡിസ്കസിങ് ദ സോഷ്യോ പൊളിറ്റിക്കൽ ഇക്കണോമിക് ഹിസ്റ്റോറിക്കൽ ബാക്ക്ഗ്രൗണ്ട് ഓഫ് ദ പോയറ്റ് ആൻഡ് ദ പോയം. അപ്പോൾ നിങ്ങൾ പൊതുവെ പരീക്ഷ അറ്റൻഡ് ചെയ്ത ആളുകളായിരിക്കും. പരീക്ഷ അറ്റൻഡ് ചെയ്ത ആളുകൾക്ക് ഇത് സഹായകരമായിരിക്കും. ഇനി പോകാനുള്ള ആളുകൾ നിർബന്ധമായി ഈ പരീക്ഷ അറ്റൻഡ് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസ് ഡിസ്കസ് ചെയ്യുന്ന ആളുകൾ, ശ്രദ്ധിക്കുന്ന ആളുകൾ പരീക്ഷ അറ്റൻഡ് ചെയ്യുക. അപ്പോൾ ഓരോ ചോദ്യവും നമ്മൾ ഡിസ്കസ് ചെയ്യുന്നു. ദ ഫസ്റ്റ് ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ നോക്കുക നിങ്ങൾ. അതായത് ദിസ് ഈസ് അബൌട്ട് ഡൺ ആണ്. ജോൺ ഡൺ, ദ പീരീഡ് 1572 to 1631. This is the period of John Donne. John Donne, 1572 to 1631. This is the period of John Donne. The greatest metaphysical poet ആണ്. The greatest, his poetry is metaphysical. John Donne is a metaphysical poet. Metaphysical poet ആണ് ജോൺ ഡൺ. നിങ്ങൾക്കറിയാം. Metaphysical poet because of his, why is John Donne called metaphysical poet? Because of his love, because of his individualism, and quest for what? Because of his individualism and quest for learning. Why is John Donne? John Donne is one of the greatest metaphysical poets. His poetry is metaphysical because of the poet's individualism and quest for learning. His poetry is full of wit. Remember, full of wit. And John Donne, who lived 1570 to 1631. John Donne. Why is John Donne called metaphysical poet? Because of his individualism and his quest for learning, and his poetry is full of wit. And we have got to learn valediction, forbidding morning. It is a metaphysical poem by John Donne, written in 1611 or 1612 and published in 1633 after his death. Remember, this poem, a valediction or forbidding morning, was written in 1611 or 1612 for his wife Annie before he left for continental tour. And this poem has 36 lines. It's a love poem. And John Donne revolted against the tradition of Shakespeare, Ben Jonson, Spenser, Samuel. Spenser, Ben Jonson, and Spenser. John Donne revolted against tradition of Spencerian stanza. Spenser. He revolted against Spenser. See, Then, second question. John Donne was imprisoned, personal life of John Donne. He was imprisoned for his obscene writing, rebellious writing, clandestine marriage, financial corruption. John Donne was imprisoned for clandestine marriage. Clandestine, not obscene writing. His poems are full of wit, individualism, and quest for learning. John Donne revolted against the tradition of Spenserian stanza, Spenser, who wrote fairy tale. Then, third question. Donne's poetry falls into dash divisions. See, his poetry falls into three divisions. First is early poems. Then, sensual love poetry is sensual love poetry. Then, later poems or religious poems. Later poems, see, sacred poetry. Later poems are sacred poetry or religious poems. These are the, John Donne, he was born in 1572 and passed away in 1631, who revolted against Spenser. He was a metaphysical poet, and metaphysical poetry is called metaphysical poetry because of his individualism and his quest for learning. His poetry is full of wit. And this poem, a 36-line poem, and first published in 1633. Actually, it was written in 1611 or 1612. Then, and the fourth question is, with Donne, it may be said Caroline poetry flourishes, declines, begins. With Donne, it may be said Caroline poetry begins. Caroline poetry or Cavalier poetry. Caroline poetry or Cavalier poetry. You know the age of Charles. Age of Charles I, known as Caroline period. The age of Charles I is known as Caroline period. The famous Caroline poets are Thomas Carew, Richard Lovelace, Thomas Carew, Richard Lovelace, John Suckling. They are known as Caroline poets. See, the age of Charles I is known as Cavalier period or Caroline period, and with Donne, it may be said Caroline poetry begins. See, Caroline poems are noted for their metaphorical and sensual taste. The Caroline poems are known for its metaphorical and sensual taste. Metaphorical and sensuous taste. And they wrote sonnets, love poems. They include sonnets, love poems, and religious poems. Sonnets, love poems, and religious poems. Right. So, with Donne, it may be said that Caroline poetry begins. Then, next one. Which work of John Donne was highly approved by James I as a contribution to anti-Catholic controversy? Which work of John Donne was highly approved by James I as a contribution to anti-Catholic controversy. James was came to power in 1603. Pseudo-martyr, the progress of Saul, an anatomy of world, epithalamium. Which poetry of John Donne, which work of John Donne was highly approved by James I as a contribution to anti-Catholic controversy, that is pseudo-martyr. Pseudo-martyr is the work by John Donne, was highly approved by James I as a contribution to anti-Catholic controversy. Anti-Catholic controversy. Remember that. Pseudo-martyr. Then, Donne's The Progress of the Soul and Metempsychosis are illustrious of his metaphysical poems. Metaphysical poems. Then, which of these statements about metaphysical poetry is true? Answer is, it frequently makes use of paradox. It frequently makes use of paradox. So let us see the characteristics of metaphysical poetry. Characteristics. What are the characteristics of metaphysical poetry? See, you know that the great metaphysical poets are George Herbert, Henry Vaughan, Andrew Marvell, and John Donne. What are the important characteristics of metaphysical poetry? You know, metaphysical poetry, they are highly intellectual. See, all poems are highly intellectual. So, they deal with intellectualized themes. And metaphysical poets use strange imagery. Then they use frequent paradoxes. We can see frequent use of paradoxes. We can see strange imagery. You can see the themes are intellectualized. And certain, extraordinary, extremely complicated, almost all poems deal with extremely complicated themes. Remember this, complicated themes. And these poems, almost all poems themes love, lust, religion, morality. These are the metaphysical poems. See, love, lust, religion and morality. Then, next one. Who developed interest in suicide and an obsession with death? John Donne. See, love, lust, religion and morality. John Donne developed interest in suicide and an obsession with death. Next question. The term metaphysical poets was applied to Donne and his poets, Dr. Samuel Johnson. Samuel Johnson applied the term metaphysical poets, school of poets. Dryden said he affects metaphysics. But the term metaphysical school of poets was first applied to John Donne and other poets by Dr. Samuel Johnson. Then, next question, 10th question. See, on his blindness. Who says Milton, thy soul was like a star and dwelt apart? Thy soul. Who says Milton, Thy soul was like a star and dwelt apart. Wordsworth. Milton, thy soul was like a star and dwelt apart. Next question. Milton, thou should be living at this hour. Who remembers Milton a sonnet so passionately? Milton, thou should be living at this hour. Who remembers Milton in a sonnet so passionately? See, Wordsworth. Though Milton, thou should be living at this hour. Who remembers Milton in a sonnet so passionately? Milton, thou should be living at this hour. Milton, thou should be living at this hour. Who remembers Milton in a sonnet so passionately? William Wordsworth. Then 12th question. The sonnet was introduced, it's an important question. The sonnet was introduced in England in the first half of 16th century by Pope and Dryden, Thomas Wyatt and Earl of Surrey, Shakespeare and Ben Jonson, Milton and Pope. You know that? Thomas Wyatt and Earl of Surrey, they introduced sonnets. Sonnet was introduced in England in the first half 16th century by Thomas Wyatt and Earl of Surrey. Thomas Wyatt and Earl of Surrey. Remember this. Thomas Wyatt and Earl of Surrey. Then, let us see about sonnet. See, one is Petrarchan sonnet. Traditional Italian sonnets. Traditionally, the sonnets have 14 lines. 14 lines. And see here, Miltonic sonnet and Shakespearean sonnets. Let's see. See, the sonnets have 3 quaternions. 3 quaternions. Sonnets have 3 quaternions, means 4-line stanzas. 4-line stanzas. 4-line stanzas plus a final rhyming couplet. Rhyming couplet. 14 lines ആണ്. See, 14 lines. Traditionally, the 14 lines of a sonnet consist of octave and set. See, octave and sestet. S-C-S-T-E-T. That's sestet. S-C-S-T-E-T means 6 lines, 8 lines and 6 lines. Octave and sestet. 8 lines and 6 lines. See, these 14 lines. And Miltonic sonnets have the rhyme scheme A, B, B, A, A, B, B, A, 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 B, B, A, A, B, B, A, C, D, E, C, D, E. Miltonic sonnets have the rhyme scheme A, B, B, A, A, B, B, A, C, D, E, C, D, E. So, the sonnets, see, the sonnet actually was introduced in England in the first half of 16th century was Thomas Wyatt and Earl of Surrey. Then, next one is, which of the following statement is true about sonnet? Which of the following statement is true about sonnet? Sonnet is a poem expressing one main idea or emotion. It consists of 14 decasyllabic lines. It is chiefly associated with the famous Italian poet Petrarch, but it has been earlier used by Dante. which of the following statements is true about sonnet? Sonnet is a poem expressing one main idea or emotion. It consists of 14 decasyllabic lines. It is chiefly associated with famous Italian poet Petrarch, but it has been earlier used by Dante. Answer is all of the above. All these statements are about sonnets. All these statements about sonnet are true. Then, next question is, John Milton wrote dash in all sonnets in English and 2 in Italian. Really? And 6 in Italian. John Milton wrote, totally he wrote 24 sonnets. 18 sonnets in English and 16 Italian sonnets. See, Miltonic sonnets observe or use the rhyme scheme A, B, B, A, B, B, A, A, B, B, A, B, B, A, C, D, E, C, D, E. Miltonic sonnets. Then, next question is, Shakespeare's sonnets were written to and for the poet's patron, W.H., Earl of Southampton. Shakespeare's sonnets were written to and for the poet's patron, Queen Elizabeth, James I, Earl of Southampton. Earl of Southampton. You know that Shakespeare wrote 154 sonnets. Shakespeare wrote 154 sonnets, and these sonnets were published in 1609. Shakespeare wrote 154 sonnets, and these sonnets were published in 1609. And 126 sonnets. He wrote 154 sonnets. 126 sonnets were addressed to an unnamed. Or 126 sonnets were addressed to an unnamed, attractive, handsome young man, a man who represents beauty, addressed to an attractive man, young man who represents love, beauty, and praise. 126 sonnets were addressed to a young, unnamed, attractive young man who represents love, beauty, and praise. And 28 to a woman. 28 sonnets were addressed to a woman, a mysterious, dark lady. Woman means a mysterious dark lady. Right? Remember, William Shakespeare wrote 154 sonnets. 126 sonnets were addressed to a unnamed, attractive young man who represents beauty, love, and praise. 28 sonnets were addressed to a woman, a mysterious dark lady. And sonnet 18 addressed to W.H. William Herbert, the third Earl of Southampton. W.H. means William Herbert. Herbert, the third Earl of Southampton. The third Earl of Southampton. Adana. Poet's patron, Earl of Southampton. Remember this. Then, next question. Who said England emerged as a noble and puissant nation? Puissant means powerful nation, arousing a strong man after sleep. Who said England emerged as a noble, puissant nation and arousing herself strong man after sleep? John Milton. John Milton said England emerged as a noble and puissant nation, arousing herself strong man after sleep. Then, who said? John Milton. Who among the following is not a metaphysical poet? You know, metaphysical poets are John Donne, Andrew Marvell, George Herbert, Henry Vaughan. These were the metaphysical poets. So Johnson, Samuel Johnson was not a metaphysical poet. He was a biographer and a Shakespearean critic, and he was a lexicographer. Samuel Johnson was a lexicographer, and Ben Jonson was an Elizabethan playwright. Then, next one is, which of the following is not a metaphysical characteristic? Which of the following is not a metaphysical characteristic? No. Then, John Milton. Which of the following is not metaphysical poet? Which of the following is not a metaphysical? Which one of the following is not a metaphysical characteristic? Wit, optimism, far-fetched metaphors, striking opening of the poem. You know, which of the following is not a metaphysical? Here, optimism. See, almost all highly intellectualized poems, and they used strange imagery and striking opening of the poem. So optimism, metaphysical poems deal with love, lust, religion, morality. There is no optimism in metaphysical poems, right? Then next question is, which of the following is not a metaphysical characteristic? Optimism is answer. Next one. Whose poetries recognize the union of ideas? Whose poetry is recognized as the union of ideas? John Donne. See, John Donne's poetry is recognized the witty union of ideas. That is why T.S. Eliot recognized John Donne as the greatest poet. Then, next one is, who has been regarded as the monarch of wit? Who has been regarded as the monarch of wit? John Donne. Remember these two questions. One is, which one of the following is not a metaphysical characteristic? Optimism. Then next one is, whose poetry is recognized as the witty union of ideas? John Donne's. Then next question is, who has been regarded as the monarch of wit? John Donne. John Donne is regarded as the monarch of wit. Then next question, who said John Donne affects metaphysics? Remember, Dryden. Metaphysical school of poetry, the term applied to John Donne and other poets by Dr. Samuel Johnson. Dr. Samuel Johnson. Remember this. He was the monarch of wit. And Done affects metaphysics. John Dryden said this. Who said done affects metaphysics? Dryden. Remember that, Dryden. Who observes intensity is the keynote of Donne's career? Who observes intensity is the keynote of Donne's career? Remember, this is Fawcett. See, Fawcett means Jesse Redman Fawcett. Jesse Redman Fawcett ആണ് പറഞ്ഞത് intensity is the keynote of John Donne. Then, next one is, which work of Milton tries to assert eternal providence as to justify the ways of God to men? You know, this is Paradise Lost. Paradise Lost tries to assert what? Paradise Lost tries to assert what? To justify eternal providence as to justify the ways of God to men. You know, Milton's honest blindness. The themes of honest blindness are love and human frailty. Love and human frailty. These are the themes of honest blindness. When I consider how my light is spent. When I consider how my light is spent, honest blindness, and see biblical authority, and duty to God and grace. Biblical authority, duty to God and grace. These are themes of honest blindness. Remember this. 24. Rhyme scheme of Milton's sonnet is, you know that, A, B, A, B, B, A, A, B, B, A, C, D, E, C, D, E, C, D, E, C, D, E, A, B, B, A, A, B, B, A, C, D, E. This is the this is the rhyme scheme of Milton's sonnet. A, B, B, A, A, B, B, A, C, D, E, C, D, E. This is the rhyme scheme of Milton's sonnet, Miltonic sonnet. Then, next one is the rhyme scheme of Milton's 25th question. 25th ചോദ്യം എന്താണെന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ, scholars deem the sonnets of Milton as, scholars deemed the sonnets of Milton as culturally defining. Refined poetry alla, culturally defining. Scholars deemed the sonnets of Milton as culturally defining. Shakespeare's sonnets were, next question is, Shakespeare's sonnets were mostly written in iambic pentameter, iambic hexameter, iambic tetrameter. Shakespeare's sonnets were mostly written in iambic pentameter. See, what is an iambic pentameter? A pattern. See, a pattern of unstressed syllable. A pattern of unstressed syllable, then stressed syllable, unstressed syllable or short syllable, then stressed syllable means long syllable. Syllables in a set of 5 feet, a set of 5 each line. This is iambic pentameter. See, iambic pentameter. So a pattern of unstressed short syllable, then stressed syllable in a set of 5 each line. This is called iambic pentameter. Iambic 14 lines ആണുള്ളത് സോണറ്റ്സിന്. എ പാറ്റേൺ ഓഫ് അൺസ്ട്രെസ് സിലബിൾ AB അതാണ് AB unstressed syllable plus stress syllable in a set of what? In a set of 5 each line. That is called iambic pentameter. Then next one. Which of Shakespeare's sonnets have 15 lines? Which of Shakespeare's sonnets has 15 lines? Sonnet 99. Shakespeare wrote 154 sonnets. 126 sonnets were addressed to an unnamed attractive young man. 22 addressed to a mysterious woman, dark lady. Sonnet 18 addressed to W.H. William Herbert's 3rd Earl of Southampton. 99 sonnet has 15 lines, unlike other sonnets. The forward violet, the forward violet, thus did I chide. The forward violet, thus did I chide. It has 15 lines. Next one is 15 lines. 28. The first 17 poems in Shakespeare's, the first 17 poems in Shakespeare's sonnets are described as procreation poems. The first 17 poems, sonnets, or Shakespearean sonnets are described as procreation poems because they are addressed to a young man. These poems, 126 poems are addressed to a young man. A young man. Young man. These procreation poems. These poems are addressed to a young man to marry. It is addressed to a young man of exceptional beauty. He is handsome. And this young man is engaged to marry and produce children to be a father. So these 17 sonnets are known as procreation poems. Then the poet means by I am what I am. The poet means by what I am. What does it mean? The poet means, this is a line from Shakespearean sonnet, 120 sonnet. I am what I am. He is content with what he is. He is discontent with what he is. He does not bother what people think about. So answer here is, this poem, the poet means by what I am. What I am means the weaker ones have the little right to criticize him. What is the answer? The weaker ones have the right, the weaker ones have little right to criticize him. So answer is A and D. He is contented with what he is. The weaker ones have little right to criticize him. So A and D is the answer. The poet means by what I am. Then next one. In sonnet 121, the poet condemns adultery, corruption, hypocrisy, vanity. The poet corrupts hypocrisy. In sonnet 121, the poet condemns what? Hypocrisy. The poet condemns hypocrisy. Then 31, the poet hypocrisy. Then 31. To which series does Sonnet 21 belong? Fair Youth series, Dark Lady series, Romances, none. And Fair Youth series, 129. This 126 Fair Youth series means these sonnets are addressed to an attractive young man, an unnamed attractive young man. So this Fair Youth series. And next one is, what is the figure of speech used in the line into the dreary desert sand of dead habits? That is alliteration. Alliteration. See, the consonant lines are repeated. Consonant sounds are repeated. That is what alliteration is. Dreary desert sand of dead habits. So, alliteration is the figure of speech. Next one. What does the expression knowledge is free? This is from Tagore's Where the Mind is Without Fear. Tagore's won Nobel Prize in 1913. Gitanjali. Knowledge is free indicate education should be. What is? Knowledge should be free from prejudices and barriers. Knowledge is free means it should be from prejudices and barriers. Then next one is 30. Where the mind is without fear. Where the mind is. Who wrote? Next one is, who wrote a foreword to Gitanjali? W.B. Yeats. W.B. Yeats wrote a foreword to Gitanjali. A very famous Irish poet, W.B. Yeats, who won Nobel Prize in 1923, who wrote foreword to Gitanjali. W.B. Yeats, the most outstanding poet of 20th century. Then, next one is, the poem Where the Mind is Without Fear reflects Tagore's strictly religious attitude, intelligence with patriotism and lofty visions, philosophy of life. Patriotism and lofty visions. Where the mind is without fear reflects Tagore's what? Patriotism. Tagore's patriotism and what? Tagore's patriotism and lofty visions. Where the mind is without fear. Then, next question is, what does the poet mean by dead habits? What does the poet mean by dead habits? Answer here is, dead habits means mindless practicing of obsolete custom traditions, old beliefs, superstition, narrow-minded attitudes, all of the above. Dead habits means mindless practicing of obsolete customs and traditions, old beliefs, superstitions and narrow-minded attitudes. The poet mean by dead habits. Then, next one is dead habits. Thus, next one is, what does the poet mean by narrow domestic walls? Nationality, caste, creed, all. What does the poet mean by narrow domestic walls? Narrow domestic walls means all. Nationality, caste, creed, everything. Narrow domestic walls. Then, the expression tireless striving. The expression tireless striving refers to making endless efforts. Making endless efforts. Then, 39th. What is the original title of the poem? Where the mind is without fear. Prarthana. Where the mind is without fear. Prarthana. That is the question. Then, next one is, next one. Where the mind is without fear. In which year Tagore was awarded the Nobel Prize in Literature? That is 1913. These are the 40 questions we discussed in the first day crash, first day module 1. Module 1, we discussed 3 poems. One is On His Blindness, John Donne, William Shakespeare, and Tagore's Geetanjali Prarthanat, Where the Mind is Without Fear. See, these are the 4 poems we discussed in the first module. See, ഇതുപോലെ നമ്മൾ എന്ത് വെച്ചാൽ ഈ ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസാണ്, ഇത് അധികം ജനറൽ ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസാണ് നമ്മൾ പറഞ്ഞത്. ടെക്സ്റ്റുമായി ബന്ധപ്പെട്ട ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസ് അല്ല. കൂടുതൽ ചോദ്യങ്ങൾ എന്താണ്, ഇതുമായി അതിൻ്റെ ബാക്ക്ഗ്രൗണ്ടുമായി ബന്ധപ്പെട്ടതാണ്. സോണറ്റ്സ് എന്താണ്, അതിൻ്റെ റൈം സ്കീം എന്താണ്, പെട്രാർക്കൽ സോണറ്റ്സ് എന്താണ്, വാട്ട് ഈസ് ഒക്ടേവ് ആൻഡ് സെറ്റ് എന്താണ്, ഇത്തരം കാര്യങ്ങളാണ് ഡിസ്കസ് ചെയ്യുന്നത്. അപ്പോൾ മെറ്റാഫിസിക്കൽ പോയിൻറ്റ്സ്, മെറ്റാഫിസിക്കൽ ക്വാളിറ്റി എന്താണ്, ഇത്തരം കാര്യങ്ങളാണ്. അപ്പോൾ ഇത് മാത്രമല്ല, ഇനിയും കൂടുതൽ നമ്മൾ ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസ് ഡിസ്കസ് ചെയ്യും. അത് ധാരാളം ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസ്, ടെക്സ്റ്റലായ ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസ് ധാരാളം ചെയ്യും. ഓൺ ഹിസ് ബ്ലൈൻഡ്നെസ്സിൽ മറ്റ് കാര്യങ്ങൾ ഡിസ്കസ് ചെയ്തിട്ടില്ല. മിൽട്ടനുമായി ബന്ധപ്പെട്ട കുറേ കാര്യങ്ങളാണ് ഡിസ്കസ് ചെയ്തത്. അപ്പോൾ ഇത്തരം കാര്യങ്ങൾ നമ്മൾ വീണ്ടും വീണ്ടും ഡിസ്കസ് ചെയ്യും. അപ്പോൾ ഇങ്ങനെ നമ്മൾ ഓരോ ദിവസവും ഒരു 40 ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസ്, നമ്മൾ 40-45 ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസ് ഡിസ്കസ് ചെയ്യും. പിന്നെ കൂടാതെ ഒരു ഫുൾ സെറ്റ് ഉണ്ടാവും. അങ്ങനെ 3000 ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസാണ് നമ്മൾ ഡിസ്കസ് ചെയ്യുന്നത്. അപ്പോൾ മിക്കവാറും എല്ലാ മേഖലയും നമ്മൾ കണക്ട് ചെയ്യുന്നതായിരിക്കും. അതുകൊണ്ട് തന്നെ ഓരോ ദിവസവും സെറ്റ് കഴിയുമ്പോൾ ഒരു ഐഡിയ, യു വിൽ ഹാവ് എ ഗുഡ് ഐഡിയ അബൌട്ട് ദ സിലബസ്. ഇതിപ്പോൾ എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ ഇപ്പം ഞങ്ങൾ ക്ലാസ് തുടങ്ങിയിട്ട് 5 ദിവസമായി. ഇപ്പോൾ ഒരുപാട് ആളുകൾ വീണ്ടും ആവശ്യപ്പെടുന്നുണ്ട്. അപ്പം അതുകൊണ്ട് ഞങ്ങൾ പുതിയ സെറ്റ്, ഒരു പുതിയ ബാച്ച് നെക്സ്റ്റ് വീക്ക് ആരംഭിക്കാൻ പോവുകയാണ്. ആ പുതിയ ബാച്ചിൽ വീണ്ടും ഇത്തരം കാര്യങ്ങൾ ഡിസ്കസ് ചെയ്യും. ഓക്കെ, ഇതാണ് നമ്മുടെ ഫസ്റ്റ് ഡേ 40 ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസിൻ്റെ ഡിസ്കഷൻ. ഇനി അടുത്ത ദിവസം ഒരു 45 ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസ് നമ്മളിങ്ങനെ ഡിസ്കസ് ചെയ്യും. ഓക്കെ, താങ്ക് യു വെരി മച്ച്.